And what's that?
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about building relationships. So hi everybody who's here and folks who are watching later. It's John with George Ohan, and we're going to be talking about building relationships, especially for indie creatives. And one of the things that I find that as a indie creative is that you are so often, focused on your art and doing what you need to, stuff like that, that like you don't want to deal with things like, promoting. You don't want to deal with things like social media and all that unless you absolutely need to kind of promote your stuff. And the problem with that is that really, building relationships isn't just about like kind of promoting yourself. It's about the different touches, and in the touches really, it can be any number of things. And George, what would you, some of the things that you tell folks about connecting with your audience, and like what are some of those touches that I know that you talk about different times, everything from hashtags to all these kinds of other elements. But what are some of the key things you find that artists and creatives really need to focus on?
Building relationships, to me, I used to be an Army recruiter, so this is the ultimate in the community building a relationship thing to me, in my life. And then whenever I got into the entertainment industry, I had to figure out how can I take those skills of really getting to know people and turn that into business, turn that into profit, and turn that into, career advancement. And it's good to be good. That's what it comes down to is I genuinely care about people. So if you want to be interesting, be interested. Ask people questions, really try to find out about them and try to see where are they coming from. Put yourself in their perspective and really try to figure out who is this person. And, building a relationship is just that. It's building, and it's not easy. It actually takes time. So you can't expect, I met this person today, or I'm talking to him today. You might have given your best presentation of your life, but you can't expect a sale or a close, because this is part of the building relationship process. Maybe expect it 18 months from now. Maybe expect it 2 years from now. I mean, this is an ongoing thing. One thing I wrote down here, mixers and follow-ups. When there's a mixer in the entertainment industry, like, forget that because Spielberg's not going to be there. It's like, dude, who the hell are you? What do you mean Spielberg's not going to be there? If you're invited to a specific mixer, maybe that's the level you're at right now. And in 5 years, you plan on being in a higher level, don't you? Well, these are the people, these are your peers right now at your level. And in 5 years, those are going to be the people in the same room because they believe in themselves the way you believe in yourself. So don't be discounting all the little mixers and different gatherings and business meetings and all the little things that go on in town, especially if you're in a place like New York or Hollywood or something like that, a bigger place for the indie creatives, maybe in Austin, maybe in Denver or something like that. You have to go to some of these mixers. You have to show your face at some of these places if you plan on having relationships with people that are going to matter in the future. You have to really be humble about, okay, these people are trying to do what I'm trying to do. They are trying to be successful. They are doing their thing. And so am I. I'm not at that level, but I really see myself being successful. Well, these people do as well. So you have to build that relationship now before they become that person in 5 years. Because what if they pass you in 5 years? What if they're well beyond you in 5 years? But right now, today, when you're actually accessible to each other, you can start that relationship. I looked at it as that. So these networking opportunities, these places where you can go, you got to really look at it like, I want to start a friendship with this person that will be Steven Spielberg. This is the baby Spielberg right now. I want to make friends with them now. You got to approach it that way. The follow-ups. This is this week. These are my business cards from this week, okay? You have to follow up within 72 hours. 72-hour follow-up rule. You get the business card. Within 3 days, you have to send them an email. Hey, my name is George. We met at this specific place. You told me this. And then based on the card itself, you have to research them, look them up, look up their website, look at their Facebook, say something specific that you guys didn't necessarily talk about so they know you went to their site. They know you took that extra step because probably 90% of the people, They get the card, they stuff it in their wallet, in their pocket, and that's it. It's over. Well, you don't have to do that. You can actually research them and send out that follow-up. Now, as soon as I send up a follow-up today, that first 72-hour one, I open my planning guide and I go 30 days in advance. And I put John Chang follow-up, and then the company name, and then that's it. I know that's a 30-day follow-up. So every single day in my planning guide, whether it's Monday or Sunday, there's always 10 to 15 follow-ups from previous people that I've always met. So there's always some kind of systematic way of doing this. Now, you can use something like Salesforce to do this for you. You can use different programs that remind you of all these follow-ups. You can use your Google Calendar to do it. It's fine. I just like to pencil it in real quick. It's just a quick thing. Now, through the emails, if it becomes something, they're going to go in digital. They're going to become somebody that I'm going to build with, because not everybody's going to become somebody you actually do something with. So I'll do a quick pencil the first couple times. Then when we start building a relationship electronically, then they get into the mix of, okay, I talked to this person. And it's not going for the sale. It's not going for that close. It's not going for, ooh, give me money. No, it's just, let me build a relationship with this person. Let me find out, who do you know? So the way I approach it is, I don't want something from this guy. This guy knows somebody that I need to know. So I got to be nice to him. And by being nice to people, you'll find out how nice they are back with information. So mixers, I recommend attending them, and then the follow-ups. That will help you definitely start the relationship and then start to maintain it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the key is that people go to these mixers. They tend to think that, like, oh, if I give my business card, then we're going to do business and stuff like that. And absolutely, you hit on something key, which is like the follow-up. The real value of the mixer isn't, just in meeting somebody, but it's using that as the foundation or the starting point for your relationship. And really, like, it's the difference between thinking short term of like, okay, let's make a sale, let's make a deal, that kind of thing, versus long term, which is like, let's build a relationship, let's get to know each other, let's get to know how we can help each other and go from there. So along with these kinds of touches and stuff, and the creating the system and stuff, like what I like to believe is, like, one of the key things is just really identifying what is it that you can really do. And I think that comes from, this kind of vulnerability and this trust. And I think that's something that there's no substitute for the time that it takes to develop that. I mean, I think, just you and I, we got to know each other just from the first times we got in contact with everything. But I definitely didn't assume that, like, okay, just because, this one time we talked about this one thing, that's it, stuff like that. It's definitely about, like, finding where those foundations are, where those places that you can help each other and stuff. And then now, like, for me, definitely when I think about, different ways that, like, I can either help George or, like, to, or people that I want to refer to him and stuff, it's things along the lines of, that, like, where it's video production or it's photography and stuff. And I know that it's somebody who's, also, even if he can't help them himself, he will find somebody who can do it. So that these are just definitely things that come with knowing somebody, and it comes with, like, again, building that trust. So, like, what are some of the ways that, for you, that you want to, like, share, the things that, like, to build that trust, and what are some of the ways that, like, you find that you trust somebody that you work with and stuff?
Well, the follow-ups are the key to this game, and that message is to salespeople. That message is for marketers. That message is for indie creatives. You have to make people feel like they're desired. You can't just walk up to I can't just walk up to a woman and say, hey, how you doing? My name is George. Get out of here. No, you got to keep following up. You got to call. You got to text. You got to send a little poke. You got to keep doing a few things. Follow-ups, okay? Now, customers go with you. As indie creatives, maybe you're working in a camera shop. Maybe you're working wherever you're working. The reason these relationships are important to build is because you might not be working at Panavision anymore, and now you're over here at Sammy's Camera. Those customers will go with you. Those relationships are coming with you. You have to realize that. You're not always going to be probably allegiant. You're not going to have an allegiance to whatever company you're working for now, forever. And we are indie creatives, so we're always doing something on the side. But just remember, you might move around during your career, during your journey. So That's why you're thinking of a lifetime relationship. Now, it's hard to think that way when you're sitting inside of a camera shop and you're the guy renting it in a rental shop and you're renting stuff out. You're like, screw this dude, I'm never going to see him again. You're going to see him again. So that's the whole point. It's like, just think, you're going to see these dudes again. This is real life. You know, I might run across you in another city at a coffee shop somewhere. I'm going to see you. So, you know, like, build based on knowing that. Adding value. When you said we contacted a bunch of times, John, I had to figure out, can I add value to your situation? It takes me a while to do that, and you didn't know that about me. People don't know what the other person wants all the time. They don't know what the other person needs all the time. And in building that relationship, we got to really seek to understand, because what you didn't know about me is I was trying to figure out, how can I help you? If I can't help you, if I don't feel like I can add value to a mastermind group, I wouldn't have become part of it. But I thought about it, I'm like, okay, I can help this particular mastermind group. I can help what he's trying to do with the knowledge that I have, with the experience I have. It's a good fit. Okay, now let's figure out, does John know what I want out of this thing? Well, you kept following up. You kept saying, hey, let's do this. Hey, it's going to be on this day. Hey, you got the information. You hit me on a text message. You hit me on the Facebook. You hit me on an email. All the same info. It wasn't annoying to me. That let me know you were serious. You wanted what you wanted. You know, that's what it takes to build a relationship. Are you showing enough interest? Are you really showing enough interest? Or are you saying, I sent him a Facebook message and he didn't respond? A lot of people send me Facebook messages. So what?
Right.
So what? Is that enough? I mean, is that enough to entice me to do business with you? And if you think it is, you're wrong. You're wrong, because I am at a certain level of business, just like you are, just like everybody else is. And if you're not at the level you want to be, you do want to level up, you do want to 10x this, you know, like you want to really, really make either more income or grow your business or get to whatever next level, then you got to start thinking that way. You got to start thinking, is this person approaching me the way I need to be approached? If I have 100 customers today and somebody sends me a Facebook message, could they be used to the fact that I'm just going to be responding to just little one Facebook messages and he's trying to build something really serious here? I can't set that standard too early. Okay? Now.
Yeah,
Go.
I was going to say that's really a key to building a relationship, is understanding how somebody wants to be communicated with. Like, people tend to think, like you said, you know, like one message, one email, or one whatever will do the trick and stuff. But really, like that's really where you're leveraging the technology for what it's really meant for. Is like basically crafting the way that somebody wants to be communicated with to their needs, not what you figure they wanted, or the way that you want to communicate with them.
And you can ask them, you know, I do that all the time. I'm like, hey, what is the best way to contact you? For me, is text message. And I give them some options. I'm like, even if it's Facebook, sometimes people are embarrassed to say Facebook or something. I put the option out there. I'm like, Facebook, email, text, or anything else. I just lay it on out. And then that way, okay, that's one extra step in the relationship. We got that figured out. This person likes email. And then you kind of see a pattern. It takes them 3 days or 4 days to answer. Okay. Or there's like, you know, certain people, minute by minute, they're on it. They hit you right back. Start to figure out how this relationship works based on trying it, based on, you know, a few messages. You have to try this thing. You have to be the one really pursuing the relationship. I got right here too, managing expectations, managing your own expectations. When you meet somebody, you're thinking, oh, cool, business. Because in my mind, I got John Chang. Dude's got a master's degree in business. So I'm like, ooh, he could really help me out. And he's a Navy officer. And I'm like, okay, so I got the vet. This is crazy. I got all these things. But John loves tango dancing, and his girlfriend has a friend, and he just wants to hang out with George because he needs a buddy. He needs a battle buddy. He needs a cool dude to hang out with, to go hang out and go learn tango dancing. I didn't think any of that. I'm thinking business. So you got to know which category is this new person. Just because I got a business card, that doesn't mean all of a sudden that's business. No. So you have a business category. You have friends. Are we just chilling? Or, you know, like, where does this person actually fall in based on what they think this relationship's about? Have you taken the time to do that?
Yeah, I mean that's an important part is like where, whether it's the business card or like just, like even like the computer screen and stuff, we tend to think of this one-dimensional person and stuff, but we really forget there's a flesh and blood human being on the other side where, they may have many different interests, they may have different, things that like challenges that like they may be only sharing certain parts of it. Like one of the kind of disadvantages of social media is that like we tend to put on our best face, our game face and stuff. It's a little bit like, at business networking meetings, like we only are willing to share so much of stuff. But really, I think, that's another key part to me of masterminds, not just the ones we do here that are public, but like ones where people meet on a regular basis. That's where you can kind of meet with a group of people. You have that level of trust that you can share these other, challenges, these other aspects about yourself. And that's where you really get to know each other.
Well, you're making a good point with the with getting to know each other. You have to send these inbox messages. Okay, you're talking about that next level, that building. Once you see what they're posting, you're talking about putting on that face. You're talking about putting on your best foot forward in social media. Once you see people posting things that you like, and you feel like, hey, I click like, I comment sometimes, I whatever, take the next step. Here's a little virtual slap on the ass. That person that you like, send them an inbox message. Hit them with a little something. Based on the posts, based on their social profile. Hey, I really enjoy what you're posting. Makes me feel good. Shows that you're happy. Or, like encourage it or ask about it. Show interest in that. And I personally do this, but not because it's a game or some kind of social trick or follow-up or building relationships, because I am interested. I'm like, damn, I would hang out with this person. Even if I've met them or not met them, or I know them or I kind of know them, at whatever level the relationship's at, with social media, there's every range of person on there. But if I like continuously what they're doing and I enjoy it, I feel good when I see their particular wall, I reach out. That moment that you feel good about seeing this person's profile, let them know, because something might spark. They might really be doing it for a reason. They might be trying to say something. They might be trying to show a side of them that maybe is new to them, and somebody finally noticed that. So ask those interesting questions. Ask fact-finding, open-ended questions. Don't say, what's your favorite color? Red. You should say, tell me about your favorite color. And then you can get a conversation out of something very simple instead of closed answers.
Yeah, the other thing that I've seen that some of the most successful people with followings is that they're generous, that they are willing to learn about their fans more and to share it. Like I've seen some of the key folks where they will actually either share fan art or that they will help promote somebody else who's a musician. They don't feel like that it's them encroaching on it, or that like they're giving up the spotlight. They're willing to share the spotlight. They're willing to basically go out of their way to help somebody else. I think that's really important. I love, like you said, if I see somebody that I'm friends with and stuff, or even if they're a fan and everything like that, they do something that to me is something I want to share and stuff, I definitely will share it or like it. It's a lot of different ways that like you can, and I think that's another key part of building that trust. It's that idea that like you really will remember different times. Not the people who like just send you the like condolences or all those kinds of things and stuff like that, but who actually shows up at a funeral of somebody you care about. Like that's a real test of that one thing that really separates them from being just an acquaintance and stuff like that to being somebody who's a friend. And that's really it. Even though we talk about fans and all that, you've said that word a few times now, and I think that's really it. It's like rather than thinking as somebody who's strictly a follower, thinking of these folks that you want to surround you with as friends and stuff. I mean, that's power. I mean, that's something that like you can't buy. I mean, you can maybe buy fans with like some of these different like kind of Fiverr, this or that, whatever, but you can't buy friendship. I mean, that's the one thing that like really I think defines what makes a true fan versus just a fan and stuff like that. So, and along with these other things that we do to kind of, promote our work and stuff, and to, basically, like you said, get to know people on another level. Like, what is it that, like, to you helps to kind of cement a relationship? What really kind of allows it to kind of go to another level? Like, what are some of the ways to kind of, like, like where, yeah, they got to know you, you become somewhat friends and everything like that. What are some of the things that really, like, touchstones that kind of, like in other words, how do you change the going from, like, a place where you're just broadcasting and, like, kind of, to getting engagement, getting
you have to share an
involved,
experience.
the movement and sharing your art.
You have to share an experience with that person. You have to go through something, whether it's breaking bread, having a meal, having a drink, money exchanging hands, doing business, having a consistent appointment schedule and meeting it each time. There's a few things. There's some thresholds. There's some things that you psychologically accept as a friendship. You allow that structure to say, okay, this is what makes a friend. This is what makes a business contact. This is what makes an acquaintance. That's different for each person. So whatever you allow for that friendship, however you allow it to be built, that's up to you. For me to cement something in, I started out that way. I'm like, hey, this is up to you to mess up. You're my friend. That's it. I'm not going to judge you. You're my buddy. Everyone's my buddy. So I treat everyone nice. I treat everyone good. All you got to do is mess it up or not. And that's it. And you'll be surprised how many times people can or won't mess things up based on your own standards for them. So if you want to live a much more happy life, stop having so many rules for other people, because the government has rules. Your mama has rules. My mama has rules. Everybody has rules. And now you're making more rules about this person, about how they should behave and act. You're going to be miserable. So stop making so many rules about how other people should act. You don't know where they come from. You don't know what they've done. You don't know why they act the way they act. As far as a friendship goes, online or for business, for indie creatives that we're trying to build, sometimes I suggest to people just be more lenient. You're trying to build a professional relationship with somebody, but that's why if you treat it like a loosey-goosey friendship, fine. They can't piss you off. They can't offend you. If you're getting offended, maybe you have too many rules about other people. So that's something to think about. One thing I got right here is sharing. John talked about sharing. I share the content of Xavier Ybarra, Signature Xavier. He's another producer. He's another director. He's another production company. But why would I share his content? Because I like his content and I want to build a team with him. So if all of you indie filmmakers or indie creators are out here and you keep complaining about, I don't have a team, well, guess what? You can have a team if you're sharing more people's content and actually engaging with the people that you'd like to create a team with. So one of the things that we have to remember is it takes time to build any relationship. It does not happen just overnight. And think about the type of relationships you're trying to build. What is your ultimate goal? Are you trying to become a production company? Are you trying to be an independent producer? Are you trying to create a television show? What is your goal? If you figure out what is your goal, it will help you realize what type of team do you need. Once you realize what type of team do you need, then you can start realizing who you're communicating with online, who you're actually talking to, and who you can build this team with.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is like, figuring out what is it that, and that's the challenge, I think, is like where on the one hand, you want to have an end in mind, but yet at the same time, it's also, you can't simply do it just because only if it fits into that big picture. It's a matter of like kind of, like you said, not having so many rules about it, but being curious about people. I mean, that's one of the things that like I talk about as like a key business skill. People don't really value being curious, just simply asking questions and learning how to ask questions, because different times people, if if you're too much in a rush to ask questions, or too much, or too that thing of trying to ask something too deep too quickly and stuff like that, that's interrogation, and that's different from being curious. Being curious is like kind of like just enough pressure to basically give the nudge for the person to kind of go forward and take that next step, and whether it's a sale, whatever else, but it's just enough.
John, how do you that's funny that you said that's interrogation. How do you make that the differentiation? How do you know what's too much? How do you know if you're not interrogating somebody? Maybe I've been interrogating them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what's interesting. Is you mentioned about dancing tango and stuff like that. And what's interesting about tango is there's a difference between the guys who like steer the women, like literally like wrench them and stuff like that, and women, like ultimately hate it, and stuff. I actually have some of the opposite problem. Sometimes I have some women who say that like I'm too gentle and stuff like that, and for yeah. So for them, I actually I'm just not the right person for them, because the women that really I love dancing with and that love dancing with me, I apply just enough to where they hardly feel the lead, that it's like almost like invisible and stuff like that. And that's the way I am with sales, I think, where like different times when it's done right, it's just like where they don't even really feel that I'm like giving them that nudge. It's just basically,
Tango Ninja.
It's an invitation. That's the way I treat it. Like basically, my approach is basically I invite somebody to either answer what I'm looking into, or like even like different times when I've had the creative entrepreneurs journeys. Each time it's an invitation to somebody, and like I would say right now my batting rate in terms of people that I've invited and people who've accepted is about 80%. And I think the reason why is that because it's not me like expecting them to. I'm just simply inviting them, and more often than not, people who like I wouldn't even expect it sometimes, like Kyle McDonald. He was somebody who like, he was getting interviews by like, Nightline and whatever else and stuff like that. So I was like, maybe he would talk with me, maybe not, but I invited him, and sure enough, we had him on the show and stuff. And I guess that's where I would say is the dividing line. It's just basically it's a feel thing, and like developing that feel is one of those things you develop as an entrepreneur. I mean, that's the difference between learning it and experiencing it versus, like you can read a book about how to ask questions and stuff, but it's still not the same as like kind of developing that sense of, what's the right time, how to ask it, all these other things that come with just simply doing it. Here's the thing that I would wonder too, like, so, okay, let's say that you've kind of taken relationships to another level and stuff like that. What about that downside? What about when, like, what to you would break a trust that you develop with a client or a fan to you? Like kind of what are deal breakers to you along the way?
Well, I might be a smaller minority when it comes to this. A lot of people they kind of just cut their losses and move on.
Right.
Me, because I come from the school of thought of I don't have any rules for you, so you can't really offend me. I mean, just short of you slapping my mother, you could call me anything you want. You could say anything about my past history. You can do whatever you want. Can't really offend me. And so with that, I'm always happy, number one. And number two, I'm always going to have you around. So hopefully 6 months from now, you change the way you think. Maybe a year from now, maybe 3 years from now, you become a better person. And we can do business then. But I'll keep you around. There's no reason for me to get emotional about it and cut you off. I don't need to create that in my life. I don't have the energy to do that for each fan or each person that has a disliking to what I do throughout the day, because every day people don't like what I do. And so some people let me know. Some people are, quietly haters, whatever. Or most of the people are just all positive and nice people. But I'm not going to spend the time and energy to figure out who doesn't like what I'm doing, or I don't like what they just did, so you're out of here. If I don't like something somebody did, I'll just not like it, and then I'll spend more energy doing something else, and they fade away because I'm spending my positive, good energy, the only time I have, my only 24 hours that I have in the day, on the good stuff. And they cannot take up any of my space, my time. They're gone. But eventually, when they change, when they finally have a coming to Jesus moment, whatever they have to have, whether it's a year from now or 6 months from now, they could come on back and do business again. So I don't want to lose them just because we're having an emotional moment. That's my take on it.
Yeah, to be honest, I wish I could have that attitude, 100% of the time. But for me, it's probably more 80-20. And 80% of the times, I value relationships enough that, like, I don't burn bridges. However, with that said, there are definitely different times with people that, like, they just do something that to me is like a deal breaker. And some deal breakers to me are like where it's where they said that they, like, I've said what I was going to do. I did it. Sorry?
I said integrity violation. Yeah, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah,
I mean, like off your cut. Yeah.
That's to me is like it, like where it's like I said what I was going to do. I did it. You said, you were going to do X, whether it's payment or whatever, stuff like that. You did not only did you not do X, you did this instead, like, which is like kind of like to me sometimes the worst. It's like where not only you did not do what you said you did, but you did something totally like different, out in left field, something like that. And that like is like that's a no. That's like kind of at that point I can't really, like you said, give too much more of my time and energy because, like you said, time and energy is precious. Like the story I go back to different times is a thing of where, like a friend of mine and I were in a laundromat and like this, lady with her kids and all that, I gave them a ride up this hill, San Francisco and all that. And if you've ever seen some of the hills in San Francisco, they're not too light and stuff like that. The problem with that wasn't the fact that I helped this lady and these kids and stuff. The problem was that, like, the friend that I was with ended up taking everything, this load of laundry and stuff like that by himself up the hill where I could have given him a ride. So that's the problem different times that we run into is that when we help one person, we're taking away, sometimes help from those people that would maybe either deserve our help even more or that, like, really are, there's only so many of us to go around. I mean, that's the reality. Yeah, I believe in abundance. I believe there's lots of us to go around. But the reality is that, like, when we make one decision to help one person and stuff, it's a choice that, like, we're not going to help X, Y, Z other people and stuff like that. So I think that's the other thing that, like, I run to is, like, is this person really the best use of my time and energy, even if it's a thought, because that's a great point that, like, sometimes I give too much thought and energy to somebody who just really doesn't deserve it. I've had friends who, like, they cut their success because of that they get upset over somebody who shouldn't have mattered to them instead of all these other people who love what they do, who are real fans and stuff like that. And I've seen that different times too. And I think, that's the key is, like, kind of figuring out who are these fans that you want to make friends, for life. I mean, that's really kind of. So here's the thing, like, who are these people then? Like, what is it that, like, separates those fans that are, like, great, they follow us and stuff like that? How do we decide who are the fans that we really want to build for life? What are some of the things that the cues, if you will, that, like, help us to decide who's really worth our time?
Okay. In the military, they preach a lot about to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. And so if you want to know what is a good fan, start trying to figure out what type of fan are you. Are you a good fan? What do you do? And you'll find out you think you're a good fan, but maybe so do your fans. But you don't act on any of these things. So the way I show my fans what I like or what I do, the way I build my fans is by becoming a fan. But I become a fan of the people that I want to meet. That's what's awesome about social media is everybody puts up a Facebook event page. They put up the next thing. I go to it. Like I said about the mixers. The people I want to meet are actually having a party or doing whatever, and they have an event. They want you to go to it. It's $15. Great. So for $15, I can meet the filmmakers I want to meet in the city I want to meet them in. Fantastic. I show up. These people think I'm their number one fan because I just paid $15 to be at their mixer. We just built that relationship. And now I'm the fan of the people that are fans of me now. They get to know me on that level, who I am. So really got to look at yourself of your habits as a fan. What do you do? And if your habits do not include buying a ticket, purchasing whatever, downloading whatever, doing whatever you as an indie creative want your fans to do, don't be mad because you don't even have those same habits. You know, it's very simple. Yeah. And then take a look at your closest friends. Take a look at your 5 friends and ask them, hey, when was the last time you bought a photo online? And you're a photographer and you sell photos online. And if your 5 closest friends have not recently purchased a photo online, and you think those are your fans, they're not. They're not. You got to really start figuring out on a business level who would be my fans, and then start trying to build the relationships with the right people, the right type of relationships. So I think that goes back to your target market, back to thinking about if you know these people purchase my thing, then I want to really try to build this relationship, or I want to show up to the events they're showing up at. For myself, let's say, independent film producer in Hollywood, I would go to Hollywood Shorts, put on by Miss Kimberly Browning. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, why are you going to a short film thing if you want to become a film producer? Like, I'm a producer. I need crew. I need talent. I need people that know stuff about what's going on in these streets here in Hollywood. Every time I will go to Hollywood Shorts, I meet all these people that are fantastic. And now, from this little Hollywood Shorts thing, all these guys are making animated series. Peter Hayaguchi, you're out there. I see you. There's people doing big things. Luke Gudici, he's out there. He just made his 2nd film. There's people that I've met within this short film club, and they're out there really doing stuff because I've been friends with them now for 5 years. Back to the thing I said is you got to start meeting the people at your level. I'm supporting their stuff. I retweet, I reshare on Facebook other filmmaker stuff all the time. I can't get all the film business in the world. I don't care if other people go watch these filmmakers too. You think Spielberg cares if somebody goes watch a Fincher movie or a Michael Bay movie or something? No, so what? You have to start building your team this way and building trust. That's how you build credibility that you're in the game. You have confidence in what you're doing. You can share other people's stuff. People will start noticing that. Like you're showing them love. A lot of people at our level, at the independent creative level, they don't really like to show each other love. They say they do, but they don't necessarily show it on social media, and they can a lot more. Sharing somebody's content that's actually good is free. Click, share, that's it. Costs you nothing. So that's how you can really engage starting out, is just engaging them to say, look, I'm here. I support you. I didn't ask you for anything. That could be the start of a relationship.
Yeah, I think that's really, the key is, like we said, is just basically, being a fan of other people's work and just basically, doing that behavior alone is really, like supporting other artists, seeing how the fans interact and stuff. There's much more that you can learn there than you can in any, social media class or whatever else and stuff that whereas, about like basically, promote and stuff like that. Learning how people interact on that level is really, like that's the juice. And I think that's the thing. It's like you said, where people want to meet the celebrities and like kind of, like they want to, shake hands with the Spielbergs and stuff. But more often than not, the real key to your success is the people around you, like you said and stuff. And then more importantly, I think, is like figuring out, who you want to really, surround yourself with and stuff. Is the idea that we talk about all the time about a rising tide raises all ships. And I think that's the thing that like, people miss out on that is like, who do you want to be, which ships do you want to be surrounded with? So then that way you move together, you grow in your career. You basically, like the most successful people I've seen, whether it's in Hollywood or wherever else and stuff, is that they, if you look at like people like Seth Rogen or Judd Apatow and stuff like that, they built each other's careers together. I mean, that's really what it was, a key part about that. And then, like along the way, they would not only encourage, but then other times they would like you said, exchange leads or like kind of basically say, hey, you should meet such and such, director, or you should, like kind of, get in touch with this casting person and stuff. So I think that the other part there is just basically, along with figure out who it is that you really want to connect with and stuff, is also like kind of, what story, do you want to like kind of, what story do you want to basically be your story with your fans? And I think that's the thing that like once they identify with your story, then that becomes, the difference between simply being a where they're following you and then they're part of the story. I think that's the other part that like I have to admit that like that I'm constantly working on is like how do I, basically bring the fans to be part of your story? Like how do you involve other people in it? And for me, like part of that is like just basically, inviting, again, going back to that idea of inviting people and stuff like that. But what are some other ways that like, we can basically make our fans part of our story so then we together create, this bigger story together?
Asking for input, if they already like music and you're providing music, what do they like? Create a playlist based on what they tell you. If you like films and they like films, ask them about certain film questions. Start easy. Start with stuff you're like, okay, Spider-Man, Superman, or whatever trailer is out. Talk about what's hot. Talk about what's trending. And talk about what's relevant right now to that particular fan base, and just start trying to get one or two people engaged. And you can even do this with inboxes. Maybe just copy and paste to about 10 people on an inbox with something small, see if they'll hit you back. And if you get a couple of little conversations going, you'll end up transferring those conversations from inbox to having these people now start commenting because they'll feel more comfortable with you because you actually built that relationship, in the inbox. They actually like started feeling you a little bit. Another thing, it's actually fun to meet your fans. Like when I see somebody on social media, I'm like, okay, I see the profiles, but it's just whatever the profile is. And then whenever I meet the person that whatever Facebook page this thing belongs to, I'm like, dude, it's like, or I meet some chick and she's just hilarious, funny, talkative, whatever. And I'm like, you post like nothing like how you are in life, the way she's like, well, the way, because she thinks she has to post a certain way or whatever. She doesn't have a business. Right. She's not creative. She's just some chick that's cool that just lives her life and has Facebook. And so she doesn't know. And so when I meet her, I'm like, that is you. Wait a minute. It's fun. So us as the indie creative, sometimes that's weird for us to be out here meeting people and mingling and this and that, but that's what it's all about. People do want to meet you. You are doing something that people like. So people are interested in that. They really are. They want to know. You think it's so easy to make a song or make a little video or do your art piece or do whatever in business. That's not easy to many people, and they're interested in knowing more about that. So feel confident in at least talking about what you know. I think a lot of indie creatives are nervous to talk to their fans or talk about anything they know because they feel like they should be at that top supreme level. Who the hell is at the top supreme level of all of their industries? I mean, come on. We hold ourselves to such a ridiculous standard. Like, knock it off. You just have to know what you know. You just have to talk about your experience. And if you're willing to do that, that is plenty to build a fan and make a friend. And that's it. Make a friend. It's not networking. When people say it's business networking, screw that. Take that out of there. It's just making friends. Like, you're just being cool. That person's being cool. Most people are just genuinely all right. That's it. Just start there.
Yeah, I think that's something that like I definitely want to cover maybe, even next week or stuff like that is, how do you kind of go beyond what you think how you should appear and stuff like that versus, like kind of having that authenticity, having that, being real. I mean, just really just that, where I think that's something that like really I see different times that like people talk about branding, talk about all these other things and stuff like that, and what the message gets lost is just how, like, especially I think nowadays it's even more important. You know, like what I like to say at different times is authenticity isn't just, you know, a reality or necessity stuff. It's a game changer. It's one of the key ways that like it's going to help you to stand out, because that's what somebody's going to remember is like what, you know, George is really about and stuff like that. Like, you know, it can be just some of the most offhanded things and stuff like that, but I think that's different times what people remember though. Like it could be that one time, you know, like I definitely remember about you recently shared about, you know, like having your car broken into. I mean, that was a really, you know, like raw moment, stuff like that, and I get that and everything, but your willingness to kind of, you know, share that, I was like, wow, like kind of that's something that like I think really people, you know, especially if somebody who's an artist and stuff, they feel like they gotta like, you know, look like they're talented or successful and all that kind of stuff. But I think they're missing out on the opportunities to really build some real connections when they talk about that, when they talk about things like, you know, like you talked about, like coming into this country as an immigrant with your family and stuff like that. Those are some real stories that like then, you know, like that other artists can't share. That's something that like is unique to you. And I think that's something that like I think people who, you know, like different times, especially indie creatives, they lose that opportunity.
I was when you were talking, it reminded me of one of the veterans that I know here in Puerto Rico, and he goes, "Man, I fucking hate terrorists, man, and I want to put it on Facebook. I want to put that shit on Facebook so bad, man, and I fucking hate them, man, and why do they gotta mess things up, and why do they gotta hate everybody?" And he's just going off, right? And I go, "So what'd you do? What'd you put on Facebook?" He goes, "I posted a picture of an American flag." And that was it. And like that was his answer. And I was just like, okay, you did well. You did well, man. You know? But other guys are like, fucking terrorists, oh, America. You know, they post it. But this guy, he said, you know, how upset he was. He was talking about how much he did not like them. And he had some really valid points. And at the end, I was like, dude, so what'd you do? Oh, I posted a picture of an American flag. And like, that was it. And I get it. I'm like, okay, you did good, and that was that, you know. So that's people handle social media different. So you want to keep authentic, you want to keep it real, you want to whatever. That's the fine line, I guess. Like, do you care about what other?
Yeah, I mean that's something. Yeah, we can definitely. I think that's a huge topic and stuff because of, like you said, there's different aspects of it. It's not so clear because like different times, like, you know, like Lewis Howes actually, I was just finishing up his book and stuff, School of Greatness, and one of the most the podcast that he told that where he told his personal story and stuff of being, you know, raped as a 5-year-old and stuff. I mean, this is a big jock guy and stuff like that. I mean, to me, that was like one where he got some of the most comments and everything, and it was, you know, it was not. I could tell it was not him doing it just to, you know, get more, you know, like downloads or ratings or whatever, stuff like that. He was just being really authentic. He was really being vulnerable and stuff like that. And I think, you know, it's like if you trust your fans enough to be that real and that, you know, that's something that, like, you know, if with the right people that you surround yourself with, yeah, it won't matter. In fact, if anything, it makes you even stronger in their eyes and stuff like that, being that vulnerable. So I think that's one of the kind of contradictions or ironies is like, you know, sometimes the more vulnerable we are, the stronger we were actually, you know, courageous for that matter, we will be to our fans and stuff. So yeah, I think that's something that, you know, I definitely look forward to kind of sharing that next time. So okay, let's wrap this up. One takeaway that you have for this week that like you want to share.
Mixers, follow-ups, and the School of Greatness. You're reading the book School of Greatness. That's a great audio download as well. People should definitely check it out. But the mixers, you got to show up. Half of this thing as an indie creative is showing up. Okay? Those people that you meet, they're cool. Just like you. You're cool. You want to do something, they want to do something. You want to make a friend? You want to feel loved? Make them feel loved. To be interesting, be interested. That's it.
Awesome. This week, you know, for me, my key takeaway is the idea of that, like, where And something that, like, I have to admit that something that's evolved is the idea of, not being so much concerned about building fans as about building relationship and friendships. And the distinction being that, like, the better that you are able to do something that's like what most people treat as, like, unscalable, whatever, stuff like that. That's, I think, kind of what really defines your success versus, like, the next person or the next artist and stuff like that. So that's all we have for this time. And yeah, next week I'll definitely schedule us for talking more about the idea of, like, how do we, convey what we're about and stuff like that, how we communicate that, like the things that people call branding and all these kinds of things. Let's get down to the real nitty gritty of it next week and stuff like that. So thanks for watching. For those of folks who are either on this time or coming in next time, and we'll catch you on another Indie Creative Mastermind. Thanks, George.
You're welcome, man.